It took us a lot longer than I planned, but we did it. We made another short horror film. This one is called Flicker. With the second and then third wave of the pandemic in Ontario going on, it was tough to make more small-scale indie films with crews again. So I wrote a new script for just Melissa and I to do, planned it out, we shot part of it one night, and then I realized it was not going to be good. Although I liked the story I'd developed and I had some good scares planned, I felt like the idea was too big and complex with no crew. So I went back to the drawing board and I wrote a whole new script, which we started shooting that night. Then it ultimately became this film. Flicker, like my last two horror films, was shot entirely on my Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 6K camera, and probably 95% of it was done on my Sigma 18-35 f1.8 art lens, with the occasional shot picked up on one of my Rokinon T1.5 Cine DS Primes. This film posed a few challenges though, because I had to be on camera at the same time as Melissa. So thankfully a buddy of mine lent me his super tiny wireless monitoring system, which I rigged up to one of my old small HD monitors and used it as a mobile director's monitor. This allowed me to place the camera, set the focus, and see the frame when both Melissa and I had to be on camera at the same time. I lit the film mostly with my Aperture C120D Mark I, and Aperture MC, which can be magnetized to the metal studs in the walls, and Yongnuo light wands. That was pretty much it. I carried a few elements from the scrapped film idea into this one, like the hands coming from the banister and the stairs, and having a figure in the background as part of a reveal-style jump scare. But originally the story was about a blackout, so Melissa would be exploring using a flashlight. After shooting some of it and testing the color grade, I decided it was too hard to light and do by myself. As I've mentioned in other videos, I'm a very, very inexperienced cinematographer. The idea was just too ambitious, and I felt like I couldn't execute it the way I wanted to. So I changed the concept to a set of flickering lights, somewhat inspired by Stranger Things. Which I did by connecting whatever lights I wanted to flicker to a couple extension cords, and then to a power bar with a switch on it that I flickered either with my hand or foot, depending on how much else I was doing at any given point. For example, I ran the cables from the lamp here, around the corner into the kitchen where I was hiding behind the counter, so I could flick the lights with the power bar and then get up into position. Done. That's where the wireless transmitter and monitor helped immensely.
Lean a little bit further in. Yeah, there you go.
Then, in post-production, I added a very subtle digital tilt down to the camera as she leans back to keep the frame looking proper and intentional.
It also helped a ton for a lot of the tight shots, or shots where I had to be away from the camera or wedged into a tight spot where it was really hard to get a clear view of the monitor. We also used a few non-filmmaking tools to get some of the shots. Like, since we live in a pretty small condo with neighbors on either side, I don't have my acoustic drum kit set up, and instead play an electric one so my neighbors don't hate me. However, I do have my old acoustic kit in the garage, and with it are cymbal stands. I've used a drum cymbal stand as a light stand before, but this time I dug it out to string the light bulb over in front of the lens to get this shot, while mashing myself and the camera right up against the wall and using the director's monitor to see what I was shooting. Sometimes the lack of resources is what actually fosters creativity. And for the first time in one of our films, Melissa has a few lines of dialogue.
Safe at home. Set the front door alarm.
Front door alarm activated.
Which was a big step up for her, since she's usually not an on-camera actor at all. We recorded them by putting my Rode NTG4 Plus onto a boom stand with an XLR running directly into the Blackmagic, so the audio went right into the camera's audio channels. So the first night of production was spent basically getting all the living room scenes, and then the second night was just in the kitchen. We took the third night off, and I just kind of used it to shoot a couple pickups of our alarm system, since Melissa had felt like she'd messed up her back from so many turns on night one.
3, 2, 1, go. Go.
And then our final day was a long one, all downstairs in the hallway, since we didn't need to wait for the sun to go down to get started. I promised myself I wouldn't shoot in my basement again after doing Safe at Home, since it's so tight and hard to light. But I guess I'm just a glutton for punishment, and I don't have many other options. However, the space itself forced us to get creative. Since I didn't have a decent dolly system, for this low shot, I put the camera on an upside-down lap desk, on a towel, and slowly slid it across the floor while crawling behind it. I could have used a Ronin, but we were pretty exhausted at this point, and it kind of matched the more handheld look for this hallway scene anyway. And this shot right here was sort of the visual that sparked the whole inspiration for the film. I did a test for it a few weeks before we actually shot the film to see if it would even work, having a huge number of arms come through these bars. However, since again we were only 2 people, we had to do it all ourselves. So we locked the camera off, had Melissa run up the stairs while reacting to all the arms reaching through at her, and then kept it rolling as Melissa and I went downstairs and started reaching through the banister. Then I rotoscoped the hands over one another so it felt like half a dozen hands were reaching through the bars of the railing. I used the same technique here where I locked the camera off, went down the stairs, and just lifted my hands up into multiple creepy positions, and then just overlaid them on top of one another. My idea for the monster in this story is loosely inspired by the Buffy the Vampire Slayer episode Hush. I guess I kind of ripped off the idea of a demonic figure in a suit accompanied by a more visceral and physical lackey. Also, I don't know about you, but this episode freaked me the hell out as a kid. Basically, I just took the black ski mask I wore in the film alone and filled in the space for my eyes in post-production and added red flares for the eyes. I played the monster in this shot, but in this one near the end, it's actually Melissa wearing the suit. Since I had to really awkwardly set up the camera on the stairs to get a good shot of her, I did some smoothing out of the neck where we tucked the ski mask into the suit in After Effects. Then I added flares for the eyes and a few digital effects from Film Riot's Infinity Pack. I did my usual editing in Premiere, color grading in DaVinci Resolve, and visual effects in After Effects. And once I picture locked the film, Melissa and I recorded all the Foley a few weeks later. Then at that point, I walked away from post-production for nearly 4 months because work got hilariously busy, to the point where I was either editing or on set for clients 7 days a week for pretty much a couple months straight, with the occasional day off. When you end up in that situation, it becomes incredibly hard to spend all day shooting and editing stuff for clients, then wrap up your workday and continue doing the exact same work but on your side projects. There's only so much computer screen you can stare at before you kind of lose your mind. It's also why you'll see a sizable gap in my uploading to YouTube. It's a good problem to have when your clients hire you that much, but it's also a really good recipe for burnout, which is kind of what happened to me and why I just took a break from all my side projects, just for my mental health's sake. However, once I got a handle on everything and work slowed down a bit again, I resumed and finished the film. It was around that time that we finished the visual effects and color grading, put the film through music composition, and final sound mix. While I did my own music composing for Creeks and Safe at Home, this time my mixer, Murray Fleming, composed the final music and did the sound mix with my direction, which is what we did last year for our film Alone. Having a real composer just elevates the music beyond what I could have done myself. I can play guitar, I have a basic understanding of how to play piano, I understand music theory, but primarily I'm just a drummer. I usually just kind of hit things. But one of the biggest things with this film is that so much of it is eerily silent, which makes it extremely easy to nitpick. It's much harder to make silence sound good. When a film is that quiet, it makes every sound effect or element stick out, opening it to more scrutiny. It's what made the sound mix in A Quiet Place so engaging. They put so much work into perfecting the art of silence. And then when there is sound, it can really freak you out. We actually went back and took out a few music cues that we had composed for it because I enjoyed the silence so much. I thought it increased the tension that much more. So I'm just giving a little shout out to Murray because this was a difficult mix and he made it killer. So then we finally finished the sound mix and I married everything together into what it is now. So this film took 4 nights of shooting, a couple weeks of editing, and then 4 months of sitting on my hard drives calling my name while I neglected it because I didn't want to burn myself out too badly. And now it's out there in the world, and I gotta think of what I want to do next.
Where's my round of applause?
Oh.
I just got you in focus.
And that's a wrap on Melissa for the day.
No, not my round of applause.
And a wrap for production for the day. Good job, everybody. Awesome work. Why isn't anyone else clapping?
Oh, and dead.